Ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, if you would all find a seat, that would be nice. Not introducing anyone who's not in a seat. 50 years ago, President Richard Nixon made Melvin Laird, the popular congressman from Wausau, the Secretary of Defense. In a special election for this vacant seat, David Obey, who was representing Wausau in the Assembly, won and went on to a brilliant career. In the special election for Dave Obey's seat, the Assistant DA of Marathon County, Tony Earl, was elected. Mr. Smith comes to Madison and conquers. He was elected majority leader after 1 year. We're going to start with introductions. And please, they all ask, do not hold your applause to the end. Governor Martin Schreiber. Governor Tommy Thompson. Governor Jim Doyle and First Lady Jessica Doyle. Governor Scott McCallum. Senator Tammy Baldwin. And Congressman Mark Pocan, our congressman. And the host to the Democratic Convention that will nominate the next President of the United States, the Mayor of Milwaukee, Tom Barrett. Okay, now for the special people. Sheila Coyle. Sheila, you were a terrific First Lady and a wonderful friend from the beginning. And this goes back to the days when you were the knowledgeable aide to Ed McLean, who came to the Assembly after Tony left from Wausau. And this goes through your career at the La Follette School, where many a student went into public life. Yes, the La Follette School. Where many a student went into public life because of your enthusiasm and your example. But it was the residents in Maple Bluff. When Democrats are in power, it's a residence. When Republicans are in power, it's a mansion. This is where you made the people of the state feel at home, along with a whole bunch of politicians. And it was always good to count the silverware after those events. And your heart was in it the night you sang Danny Boy at the St. Patrick's Day party at the Italian Men's Working Club on Regents Street. For the audience, I have no idea either why we were with the Italians. With us also are the 4 very accomplished daughters of Tony and Sheila: Julia, Anne, Maggie, and Kitty. And welcome to your families as well. And a special guest, Tony's brother, Dave, and wife, Diane. When Jane Nemke went to a benefit auction for the Wisconsin River Alliance a few years ago, one of the things to bid on was dinner at the Avenue Bar with former Governor Tony Earl. She won it, and she won him. They were married not long after. When Jane was just 26, she was promoted to head public relations for the Midwest region of the Weyerhaeuser Corporation. Her colleague and mentor was someone that would work with Tony later. His name was Bill Ruckelshaus, who went on to head the EPA during the time Tony was governor. Jane kept being promoted, and at 35 became the head of a manufacturing plant for Apogee Industries. There were 52 employees. 50 of them were men. In the annual report, she was singled out for her management skill. And I'll say management skill because she organized this. Okay, let's see a video.
Today is indeed a bright day for the people of Wisconsin. It's a bright day because we're launching into a promising new year. And the state of our proud state is once again in tune with our motto: we're moving forward again.
If there's one thing that you could say about Tony, he was willing to stick to his principles and make tough decisions, and he actually made them work, in my opinion.
Governor Earl was ahead of his time in many ways.
He did what he thought was right, not what was politically expedient.
If he made a deal and he said he was going to do something, that's precisely what he did.
He did what he felt was right by his own moral compass, which was really strong.
Tony Earl gave us an example of how to function in government as a decent, caring, honest human being.
Actually, I was kind of jealous of Tony. Growing up with him, I couldn't believe all of the qualities that he had in one person. He was president of the senior class, captain of the football team, prom king, boys state representative, scholarship recipient. I got kind of sick of it. Off to Michigan State, where he was an outstanding student, and then went to the prestigious University of Chicago Law School, where he was an outstanding student. And from law school, he went into the Navy and served 4 years as an officer. When he came back, he and I served together in the district attorney's office in Wausau, where he instantly developed a reputation as this really good prosecutor. I think he only lost one trial in the entire time he was there. Congressman Obey convinced Tony to run for the legislature when Dave became congressman at age 29 in 1969. Within 2 years, he was floor leader of the Democratic Party in the state assembly. From there, of course, he went to the DNR, and Lucy appointed Tony to make sure that he held the DNR together.
Under Tony's leadership of the DNR, we were able to develop approaches which were picked up and used throughout the country and even internationally. Tony was a leader and a visionary on environmental issues. He just was.
I grew up in St. Ignace. It's a little town on the Straits of Mackinac.
Beautiful country with forests and pristine lakes at the time. We used to be able to drink out of Lake Michigan.
You can't help but appreciate the clean water, clean air, the forests.
And Tony was saddened by what he saw happening to the Great Lakes, Lake Erie catching on fire, the lamprey eels killing the fishing industry. Those were the kind of things that he witnessed and wanted to do something about, and he did.
He started something called the Council of Great Lakes Governors. And we'd get together regularly and operate on the belief that there should be only one water quality standard for the Great Lakes.
When Tony became governor, acid rain was a big issue throughout the country. He wanted to deal with it, and he worked together with some of the governors and formed the Center for Clean Air Policy, which still exists today.
I think Tony's legacy is his contribution to the environment, not only in Wisconsin, but nationwide, in fact, around the world. Oh, he loved the outdoors, but don't let him fool you. He couldn't shoot a squirrel on crutches.
In hunting season, he's up in the Wausau area doing what hunters do during hunting season, which is sometimes even hunting.
But Tony never shot a deer in his life. He was a terrible shot. In fact, he was loading his hunting rifle in the camp one time and shot a bullet hole through the ceiling. And if he wasn't governor of Wisconsin, he would have been banned for life from the hunting camp. Just didn't have the hand-eye coordination that's required of an outdoorsman. And I think he'd get lost in the woods without a compass. It's all coming out now, isn't it?
One of the things I really enjoyed about being in public life was the opportunities to encourage other people to get in it. It's not solely the province of a special few.
Tony Earl believed to his core, in diversity and inclusiveness.
It was fairly easy to recognize some up-and-comers in the minority community and to give them a shot.
You can talk all you want about how you believe in certain things, but the issue is, what do you actually do? How do you actually act on it? And so anybody who's got a brain knows that Tony not only believed it, but also acted on it.
The Milwaukee Sentinel, which wasn't always a booster of mine, said when Earl ran for office, he said he would not be afraid to appoint people who would rock the boat to positions of responsibility. He just named a world-class boat rocker. And I thought that was great. I was just delighted.
He was crazy to appoint me. No, he was. I mean, it was just like, why are you doing this, man? I mean, there was no political gain whatsoever for Tony to appoint me. It was quite the opposite.
He did a lot of firsts, and he was able to take the heat for it.
He was clearly trying to say, my administration is going to be open to everyone. People are going to be treated with respect. But it wasn't just, I'm going to treat you with respect. I'm going to give you power. I'm going to bring you into positions of power to influence the direction of the state.
I was the first Black woman in the state of Wisconsin to hold appointed office. Black women had been elected, but not appointed.
He respected gay and lesbians in Wisconsin in a way that no governor ever had even imagined.
He felt that we wanted to be included, and he wanted to include us.
People have to understand what it was like back at that point in time to hire openly gay and lesbian people and then stand by them, to hire somebody like me. Right now, people do it and it's no big deal. Back then, it was a huge deal.
What I did was to show how possible it was to not only participate in, but to flourish in public life.
So those of us who are the activists, the volunteers, the nobodies, but worked hard on the campaign, he wanted us to be active in government.
But he was not jealous of his power or overly protective of it. Really, one of his strengths was his ability to share it. and to let other people's light shine.
Tony Earl had a huge impact on improving the lives of Wisconsin women.
Well, as a father of 4 daughters, do they have any options? It was just assumed they wouldn't have the same opportunities as if they were four brothers, which was crazy.
He wanted to do the right thing for women in the state. He brought new women into really important jobs in his administration.
They were tough, and they wanted to take every possible advantage of the opportunities they were given as women in positions of considerable responsibility to widen that. And they did, and they were just terrific.
Thanks to Tony, many women get set on a path of leadership, become true leaders in our state, whether it was Tammy Baldwin, who came in as a fresh college graduate.
I got an internship with Governor Earl's advisor on women's issues, Roberta Gassman. And we were in the middle of an amazing project for me to get to work on.
You can't argue with the premise. Comparable worth, equal work ought to equate with equal pay. But that has not always been the case at all.
There's nothing as fundamental as you paid what you're worth for your work, and Tony Earl was going to get that done.
Tony Earl stood up for women, and we are really fortunate today that he did.
Tony was a leader in developing ways to deal with issues across the aisle.
It was not a blood sport. Democrats and Republicans got along very well.
He understood that he had to listen to all perspectives in order to do a good job as governor.
I'm always impressed with how low-key, nice he can be.
A lot of the fights I might have had with people on the other side of an issue were often resolved over a bottle of beer at the end of the day.
He was very gracious, very deferential, very thoughtful, listened to people, but he also led.
When you get to know somebody like Tony Earl as governor, just seeking to do what's right, it's so inspiring.
Everybody liked him. Not everyone agreed with him, but they respected him. And that's all you can ask.
The state is so much better for his having been governor even just for 4 years.
Put us in a stronger place financially, put us in a stronger place environmentally, put us in a stronger place where we stood for equality.
Dedicated, stubborn, loyal, thoughtful, brilliant, really. Other than that, he's got some faults I won't mention.
His actions, thoughts, and deeds demonstrated consistently that it was his honor and privilege to serve the citizens of Wisconsin.
It showed me that a real decent human being could hold that position and do it well while still maintaining those phenomenal characteristics that make us love Tony Earl.
Tony is a mensch.
Darn good guy indeed, yeah, you betcha.
If I had to, in one word, describe Tony's greatest attribute, it's that he is principled. Most of the time. Cut that.
Our task today is to summon those forces that draw us together as one people. If we do this, we can change these, the worst of times, into the best of times, and turn our trials into triumphs. Give me your help, and God bless you all.
I think my dad is an inspiration to young people everywhere, although they don't know of him, to do the right thing. all the time for everyone.
Dad, you're a kind person with a rapier wit and an admirable nose.
Hey, I like that.
Well, I appreciate my dad's humor and his love, especially his love for all of us.
I think all four of we sisters share a deep found appreciation for the environment that was inspired by our dad, compassion for others, equal rights for all, standing up to injustice, and expressing love for one another.
And he did right, Mr. Frog went a-courting and he did ride, a sword and pistol by his side, He rode up to Miss Mousie's den, He rode up to Miss Mousie's den, he said, Miss Mouse, are you within, He took Miss Mouse upon his knee, He took Miss Mouse upon his knee, he said, Miss Mouse, will you marry me, Without my Uncle Rat's consent, I wouldn't marry the president,
In the video, you may have recognized Doris Hanson. Doris has passed away. Doris was Tony's Secretary of Administration. Tony always said, "My right-hand man is a woman." Doris went on to head the Charitable Foundation for the Realtors, and I want to thank Jim Himoff and the Realtors Foundation for helping us remember Doris tonight. And you may have noticed, heard that Tony is an alum of Michigan State. Not Michigan. In a letter from the alumni office for this event, they write, and I'll read the last line, Tony, you embrace diversity, advocate for inclusion, and protect our precious natural resources, and we are proud to call you a Spartan. Okay, so what was the assembly like 50 years ago when Tony was the majority leader? Think lime green leisure suits and cigars. There were the greats, Harvey Duholm, first elected from the Progressive Party. Lloyd Barbie, the civil rights leader from Milwaukee. Midge Miller, the anti-war activist. And Mary Lou Muntz. And Tony's friend and roommate and chair of the Finance Committee, Dennis Conta. Whenever you're with Dennis, let him order the wine. And Terry Wilkham is here from Chippewa Falls, who became the majority leader after Tony. Thanks for coming, Terry. And in that majority leader were two fine staff people, John Lobbs and Nancy King. Thanks for coming. The speakers were Bob Huber and Norm Anderson, both revered leaders, and John Shabazz. and a noted physician, Dr. No. Dr. No, also known as Tommy, became the longest-serving governor in Wisconsin history, and for many of us, our longest-serving friend. In the Senate, there was the Republican leader, Tiny Krieger, who started life as a fat boy in the circus. Also elected as a progressive the first time, Bill Bablich from Stevens Point. One of the many great public servants that that city sent to Madison. And Dave Hellbach is here too. And Stan Grzinski. And in that Senate was Katie Morrison, the first woman in Wisconsin history to be elected to the state Senate. When Tony was governor, Tim Cullen was the majority leader in the Senate, and I was the speaker. We got the votes to pass legislation that was ahead of its time, that Tony had proposed, and is now looked on as a magnificent body of law. Tim was great. Thank you, Tim, for being you and for being here tonight. Lynn Edelman, now a federal judge, was in the Senate. The great Jerry Kletchka, the finance chair. Fred Risser, the president of the Senate. And now, the longest-serving state legislator in the history of the United States. Thank you, Fred. However, Dale Cottonaw and then Bob Lang, directors of the Fiscal Bureau, were the real brains of the outfit. Judge Lisa Neubauer is here. She was on Fred Risser's staff when Tony was governor. All right. What about the press? Ron McRae, forever the press secretary, found them all and invited them. We remember Neil Shively, Gene Harrington, John Wingard, and all the rest who are here and can't be here. Had you crossed these ink-stained wretches with the politicians of the day, the result would have been a bartender. All right. Anybody who was in that legislature with Tony when he was majority leader or governor, please stand. Anybody who was in the cabinet or the staff in any part of the governor's office, please stand. Anybody who worked on an Earl campaign, please stand. And anybody that ever had a beer with Tony, you don't need to stand. My pleasure now to introduce Governor Marty Schreiber. Marty told me he needs no introduction, but if I needed it, he had 7 handwritten notes that I could. Marty Schreiber.
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador. Of all of the Toastmasters I've ever met, you're certainly one of them. What a great evening. Isn't this really something? Hello, Wisconsin. Hello, Wisconsin. Woo! When I hear all of these great things about the life and service of Tony Earl, it is indeed humbling, without a question. And then I think of all of the people that helped him, and I look around the room and see how many people are here. There are more people here this evening than was at the swearing-in ceremony of Donald Trump upon his presidency. I want you to know, just as a side note, that I drove up here today, that Mayor Barrett was kind enough to share the ride with me and give me a ride up here, and I didn't know I had to share for gasoline, but that's okay. And then also Mayor Evers is here, Governor Evers is here, and what they did was they were able to take the Miller Coors office staff and move it from Colorado to Wisconsin. And I called the mayor and I said, congratulations, because you and the governor were able to do it without even legalized marijuana. So here we are to give special recognition to someone who we deeply admire. And you know, they named a state park after Governor Tony Earl. And yeah. And that was an easy thing to do when you look at his integrity, his contribution. It was just a natural. However, the most difficult part of that is they had trouble finding a park that was not already named after Tommy Thompson. I want you to know, and this is sort of in humbleness and really sort of as an excuse, I'm really sort of responsible for Tony Earl being here, not only the success, but also just all of you being here tonight, because I was the one who succumbed to his election victory way back there in 1982. That was a primary that he beat me in. He just really took care of me in Madison, Wisconsin. And I wasn't going to come here tonight because of that. But this is the first time anyone ever asked me to speak publicly since I lost that election in 1982. One of the main reasons I am responsible for Governor Earl's success is when I was born, my parents did not give me a first name that began with T. If you're Tony Earl or Tony Evers, you get elected just by putting your name on the ballot. If your name begins with T, like Tommy Thompson, you can be on the ballot for as many times as you like and have as many state parks named after you as you would like to have. A great author once said that I'm part of everyone I've met. And when I was thinking about the quality of the person of Tony Earl, and of the friendship, and of his leadership, and of his courage, I think of this author saying, I'm part of everyone I've met. And so we've met the family, we've met the children, we've met the supporters, we met the people that were involved in his governmental experience. And so as much as I salute Tony Earl for the quality of person he is, I salute all the people he has met, which is all of you. Because as we know, this democracy is not going to be very well off without more people like Tony Earl and without more people like you. And so what an honor for me. So what an honor for me to be here with Governor Doyle and Governor McCallum and Governor Evers and Governor Thompson I don't a lot of governors here. I think, oh, I know, I wanted to just brag a little bit. Because of Tony Earl, and also because my name does not begin with a T, I can tell you very proudly that I am one of the, if not I am the shortest serving governor here this evening. And I want you to know, however, that you compare me with any of the other governors, no one has become a former governor younger than I have become a former governor. So here's what you understand, that Tony Earl is a great man, a great leader with courage, that this democracy cannot survive without more people like him and without more people like you. And so we have this chance to stand back and say thank you, Governor, and thank you, friends. Thank you.
It's really a great pleasure to introduce my friend Tommy Thompson, and the only thing he asked me to say is that, Tom, we're in Dane County. Tell them I supported the train.
It was my idea. Thank you, Tom, for being a great speaker and a great friend, and I appreciate that very much. I would like to start out tonight, not about Tony, but I would like to congratulate and acknowledge somebody that shows how to live a difficult life. Marty Schreiber takes care of his wife, Elaine, who's in a nursing home every single day. And I don't think there's a finer example of a human being and taking care of a spouse than Marty Schreiber. I was somewhat taken back by Tom Loftus introducing Mayor Barrett about introducing the next president. I did not know he knew Donald Trump that well. Governor Evers, Callum Schreiber, my friend Jim Doyle and his lovely wife, Tammy, Senator, Mark, Secretary, the lovely Sheila and the beautiful Earl daughters, the lovable Jane, and my very good friend, Tony Earl, the teacher. Tony Earl, a gentleman's servant. Our celebration tonight, while a heartfelt demonstration of appreciation of our guest of honor's deep commitment to public service, will in no way appropriately reflect the debt that I and all of us in this room owe our guest of honor tonight, my friend Tony Earl. You might be wondering, Tommy, you are a Republican. Well, every party needs a Republican. And Tony is a Democrat. What are you doing here speaking? I'll share a story with you that will tell you why I had to come. Tony Earl was a great runner. He participated in the Crazy Legs race every year for, I think, 13 to 15 years. And he was a good runner. And I participated several times when I was governor, and he always beat me. And I expected it because I knew Tony Earl and Al Fish would be in the stands with beer when we got done. And as soon as the race got completed for me, I would find where Tony and Al were sitting in the stands, and we would go and we would have several six-packs of beer. And since it's the only time that I've ever received free beer from a Democrat, I had to come tonight and say thank you, Tony. And tonight we celebrate Anthony Earl, the consummate public servant. Booker T. Washington captured the essence of Tony Earl when he said, "Those who are happiest are those who do the most for others." Those are the happiest who do the most for others. That epitomizes the legacy of Tony Earl. In case you're wondering, Booker T. Washington never knew Tony. I checked, was shocked to learn. Tony was born 15 years after Booker passed. But one of the hallmarks of Tony has always been his smile. I can't remember an instance in which anyone who ran into Tony wasn't warmed by his smile. His smile was a reflection of his kindness, a kindness that everyone in this room has most certainly enjoyed. We've been the beneficiary, Tony, of your efforts, your service, your smiles, and your exchange. And everyone in this room has been the better of being your friend. Tony and I share a history. We both are Irish. We both come from grocery families. Go back more years than either of us cared to admit. I was elected to the Assembly in 1966, a time in which Republicans still held the minority. And not long thereafter, in 1969, a young, debonair assistant attorney whose reputation preceded him from Marathon County won the Assembly seat vacated by David Obey. When Tony was sworn in, he wore his now trademark bow tie. And I wanted to meet him. I heard so much about him. I went over to congratulate him, and I found out he was really not a lawyer, but a teacher. And noticed he was wearing fancy suspenders that matched his bow tie. I said to Tony, "Those are nice suspenders." "I'm Tommy Thompson," to which Tony responded, "Tommy, these are braces, not suspenders." I responded, "You might call those braces in Wausau, but in Elroy, those damn things are suspenders." Taught me a lesson. Tony, his bow ties and braces, coupled with his intellect and approachability, moved quickly. He had no time to waste. He was elected majority leader within 1 year of his election. Nobody in the history of the state has ever had such a meteoric rise as you, Tony. Not only was reelected in 1970 and 72, he was again selected by his peers to serve as majority leader, the number 2 ranking position in the Assembly, a post he served with honor until 1974. Well, we sat on opposite sides of the aisle. I don't think, and Tony said this tonight, I don't think we ever had a cross word in all those periods of time we've known each other. He delivered the decency and respect that body needed back then. It's worth noting it's a sense of decency and respect that is seemingly in short supply all over the world today. But Tony had certain rules as majority leader. He said, "We represent the working class. We represent labor unions. So we're breaking at 5 o'clock every day for beer." Tony, the teacher, and he said, "If we don't get the work done on the floor, we certainly will get it done over at the inn or the Madison Club, and we'll be much better off for it." And we went with him. We still never won anything, but we had smiles on our faces while we lost. Tony's star has always been on the rise, and his smile has never dimmed. After leaving the assembly, his versatility shined bright. His talent and personality made him an excellent choice for Governor Lucey, our dearly departed friend who would love to have been with us tonight, and I'm sure he's looking down from up above. Made him first the DNR secretary, did an excellent job in that capacity, even though he couldn't hunt or fish. He made everybody else believe that he could. Secretary of Administration under Governor Lucey. Tony was the Democrats' nominee for governor in 1982, handily winning the general election. Tony the governor, who I worked with extensively as minority leader, was no different than Tony the majority leader. Smart, approachable, always seeking the common ground to govern. The example I remember best, Wisconsin had significant problems with its unemployment compensation fund. Efforts to fix the problem, if you remember, in Wisconsin, we let the labor unions and the manufacturers come together and make improvements. They couldn't do it that year. So Tony called us in, the four leaders, Harsdorf, Loftus, Cullen, and myself, with the instructions, find a solution and don't come back till you do. We did a bipartisan solution. But it takes a special governor, a special individual to delegate responsibility away from yourself and place your trust in others and not worry about credit. That was Tony Earl. He learned the commandment from Ronald Reagan. For the rest of your edification, he was a Republican too. His fifth commandment. It's amazing how much you can get done if you don't care who gets the credit. A hallmark of yours, Tony Earl. Tony Earl never quits. His passion for public service knows no end, which is why we're celebrating with him and his family today. Be it the causes, the boards, the commissions he's committed to throughout his life, including the Literacy Council, American Players Theater, the Joyce Foundation, Common Cause, and Center for Clean Air Policy, they've undoubtedly appreciated his great service, his great leadership. There's no single cause that has received more of Tony's attention than our state's environment. While we shared more positions than we've disagreed on, Tony is well known as an unrelenting advocate for our state's natural resources. In fact, the Peshtigo River State Forest was renamed in September the Governor Earl Peshtigo State Forest. And I ask you, don't you like the name Tony's Woods? Just a little better. It's shorter and easy to remember. And it's worth noting, Tony's Woods is right next to the state park named after me. Where else but in Wisconsin can you find two state parks named next to each other, named after governors of opposing parties, and no one thinks anything of it? This is a well-deserved honor and reminds me of a quote that fits perfectly both because of Tony's unrelenting work on behalf of the environment and his passion for public service. A society grows great when old men plant trees whose shade they'll never enjoy. Tony never focused on recognition. He focused on what was right and the right thing to do. And with that, Tony's shade, his dedication to public service, will be enjoyed by generations to come. But before I end my remarks, I would be remiss if I didn't point out Tony's glaring limitations. Sure, this is a celebration, but kind words often mean more when they are accompanied by a fair critique. I'm sorry, as this isn't easy to say, Tony, Perhaps it's best I pose this as a question. Tony, do you realize how far you might have gone if you would have chosen the University of Wisconsin for your undergraduate? In your law degree, rather than Michigan State and the University of Chicago. A Badger always beats a Spartan. And what the hell is a Phoenix? I suppose a more optimistic person would look at this and say, look how much Tony managed to overcome and achieve despite his educational deficiencies. And I'll say this, had you graduated from the University of Wisconsin, I probably would not have run against you. Tony, you've been a good friend, a teacher, a fellow Irishman for many years, far more than either of us can remember. Your counsel has always been appreciated. Your dedication to public service is without exception. Before you go tonight, let's all of us follow the lead of Tony by spending a little more time seeking true happiness, by practicing the words of Booker T. Washington and what Tony Earl practiced. Those who are happiest are those who do the most for others. On behalf of everyone in this room, your friends across the country, my friend, I would like to end with our Irish blessing. Tony, may the road always rise to meet you. May the wind be always at your back. May the sun shine warm upon your forehead and the rains fall soft upon your fields. And until we meet again, may God hold you in the palm of his hand. God love you, you Irishmen. God love your family. God love Wisconsin. And God love the United States of America.
After the reception that Tammy Baldwin received, I'm sure she needs no introduction. Tammy, would you please come up? Thank you.
Oh, I can't tell you how thrilled I am to be here on this incredible celebration of the 50th anniversary of Tony Earl's election to the state legislature. I'm a little troubled. No one told me this was a roast. and if you have, I'll get to this in a moment, but I was an intern in Tony Earl's office. Just out of college, barely enough to old enough to buy a beer on my own. And so I revered this leader who I was having this opportunity to work for fresh out of college. But this may be a 50th anniversary of your first election to the state assembly. You have served your country in so many ways prior to that. You served in the Navy as assistant DA of Marathon County, city attorney before taking office in the state assembly. And as we've all heard, an incredible leader in the Department of Administration, followed by the DNR. You are a shining example of what is good about government and the good that government can do. Over the past 50 years, Tony's work has had a profound impact on countless Wisconsinites. Tony was an environmental champion, As Secretary of the Department of Natural Resources, he really did clean up our polluted waters and protect our environment. He was a trailblazer for women's equality. When I was taking a year off between college and law school, I had this amazing opportunity to work in the governor's office, just a few feet from Tony's office. I worked for Roberta Gassman, who Tony had appointed as his advisor on women's issues. And it was an extraordinary opportunity that inspired me to pursue a career in public service. Working for Governor Earl taught me the importance of doing what is right, regardless of political popularity. And Tony personifies our strong Wisconsin values of kindness and determination and hard work. As a man of principle and passionate advocate for equality, his leadership had a profound impact, particularly on women. Recognizing that people who worked in female-dominated fields were often paid less than workers in comparable male-dominated fields, Tony established a commission to conduct a comprehensive study of the comparable worth of state government jobs. And then he used that data to establish pay equity for state employees. Now, that work informed not only the decisions made by the state of Wisconsin, but also other governmental entities and the private sector. And I'll just add as a side note, I had, as I mentioned, just graduated from college. And many people know that I was a political science major. Many people don't know that I was also a math major. And the idea of being able to crunch all those numbers to determine the comparable worth of various was so exciting to me, as I used all the skills probably for the last time that I had gained in both of my college degrees. Tony was also a trailblazer in the fight for LGBT equality. He was among the first, if not the first, to appoint a liaison to the LGBT community. And he established the Governor's Council on Lesbian and Gay Issues. And that council provided much needed oversight of the anti-discrimination laws that had recently been enacted in the state of Wisconsin. Tony set a standard for public service that we can all aspire to. Tony, thank you for all you have done for the people of our state. You are a treasure, and I'm honored to call you a friend. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to get involved in public service so that I could make a difference in people's lives. And thank you for all you have done to make a difference in the lives of so many others. I had the honor of writing up some of these remarks in the form of a statement for the congressional record, and I would like to present those to you right now.
There's a real jewel of a theater in Spring Green, Wisconsin, the American Players Theater, and it has a history with Tony. And I'd like to welcome Brenda DeVita, the artistic director of the American Players Theater.
I
am so honored to be here. I'm not a governor, a former governor, or a senator, or a former senator, nor did I work in the Capitol, but I am so humbled and honored to be here tonight. Thank you. You have so many good friends, Tony. And good friends are behind all good stories, and good stories make for a good life. And that's a line from a play we did this summer called The Book of Will by Lauren Gunderson. In the story, a group of actors, Shakespeare's company of players, the King's Men, worked together, these men of the stage, these friends who raised their families together and buried their comrades together. This community of humans struggled desperately after Shakespeare's death to save their friends' plays from obscurity. At the time, they didn't know he was a master. They didn't know he was a genius. They had no idea he was Shakespeare. They just felt moved to act. In a sea of trouble and turbulence, the world they lived in, they just knew that he was special. And his stories in their home, the Globe Theater, was a respite from the mayhem and the struggles and the fear outside their walls. They went with their guts, risking their own security and reputations and using their own limited resources and time to gather Shakespeare's brilliant works together for the future. And I thought of those plays and those players and that story when thinking about what to say tonight about our friend, Governor Earl. Tony's vision saved American Players Theater from obscurity. And more than that, complete ruin. Plain and simple, that's a truth. At a time when the circumstances surrounding the theater felt a bit like the plagues of 1616, it was 1986 and APT was closing. It seemed a fait accompli. For this was not the first time in its short 6-year life that such a threat was pending, having scratched its way back from the brink for more than one occasion. But Tony, he could see it, what others couldn't. That this hidden hillside in the middle of the woods in southwest Wisconsin, where thousands of humans gathered to listen to stories, was powerful and life-sustaining. This place where people were allowed, for just a little speck of time, to see others unlike themselves and perhaps understood them just a little bit better, where they were exposed to the unknown and the unfamiliar safely from their seats, where together under the stars they contemplated their lives, laughed and cried together, where they became one. This act of creating a small community for the 3 hours it took to walk up that hill and see a play gave hope. Hope we could learn to empathize with the struggles of our fellow human beings, whatever their views may be. He recognized that this theater could be saved. If it could be saved, it could be a gift to the state of Wisconsin for literally millions of people in the future who would climb that hill. Tony saw APT's potential, and he acted on it. And unlike the King's Men of Shakespeare's time, Tony, as governor, had some real power to make a difference. But that power in the hands of others may not have garnered the same results, for it takes courage and discernment and will to make a difference. I suspect even when you are king. And now, I'm not a politician, and from where I sit, nothing looks easy over there, you guys. It's in the government. Wow, I thought theater was tough. And I imagine even in the kinder and gentler times of the past, it was not easy convincing folks that this tiny little venture of live Shakespeare in the woods, I mean, that is a terrible idea, let's be honest, that this is worth the investment. It took vision and leadership, and I wouldn't be surprised if it cost you a little. But he did it. Governor Earl secured a federal grant of more than $400,000 for the purpose of keeping APT open and restructuring its debt. Thanks to Tony and many of his colleagues, many of them are in the room tonight. I met many of you that saved APT tonight. Tommy Thompson said he did, just so you know. Right? I appreciate you too. Because of your good work with your good friends, APT started on the path to fiscal solvency, which in turn set APT on the road to one of the most successful and fiscally stable arts organizations in the state of Wisconsin, and I say in the country. Yeah, we have been in the black for 26 years. That is unheard of in an arts organization. I just want to say shout out to APT and all you guys who support us. Thank you. But it wasn't, what isn't able to be put into quantifiable dollars Tony, is a tremendous gift beyond the money to those of us at APT, and that's your faith and your confidence in us. For without it, we would not have the courage to continue to make art, especially now in these times. It is imperative for us to know that what we do is valuable, that it makes lives richer, that in some tiny way that we're changing the world for the better, and undeniably by this act that you did, you let us all know that you believed in the arts, that they are essential for human beings, that their creativity and empathy and beauty are non-negotiable. They are life. That is a legacy I am deeply in awe of. And as I said in the beginning, good friends make for good stories, and good stories make for a good life. That's a great story. And it seems to me you've had a hell of a life. So after 40 years, APT is thriving. 100,000 souls every summer walk up that hill from all over the country, Governor, and that is in great part due to you. My family, personally, my friends, our community, all of us take the words of Mr. Shakespeare to say, "More is thy due than more than all can pay." Thanks, thanks, and ever thanks. From all of us at APT, thank you, sir.
Sure, Tommy was on board. After we told you Shakespeare was Irish. He was. If the Democratic Party has a patron saint in Wisconsin, it's Gaylord Nelson. And I want to bring up next Tia Nelson, his daughter. Tia carries the torch of her father and Earth Day, and because of her, it is well. She is a terrific lady. Tia?
Good evening. So my goal is to finish speaking before you finish listening. Or my father, as most of you know, had a marvelous sense of humor, attribute that Tony and he shared. They shared many attributes, which I'll talk about in a moment. But my Papa would always start with a joke, and so, you know, as Henry VIII said, don't worry, to Anne Boleyn, don't worry, my dear, I won't keep you very long. You know, being Gaylord's daughter is a little bit like winning the lottery without even having to buy a ticket, right? I'm the luckiest daughter in the world. Don't think it hasn't occurred to me. I could have been born Richard Nixon's daughter. But raise your hand if you knew that he created the Environmental Protection Agency, right? Yeah. So, yeah, the last Republican environmental president we had. Thanks, Tommy. I'm honored to share the dais today with Tammy, who's done so much for the citizens of Wisconsin and fighting for our environment and protecting our Great Lakes. Tommy loves to tease me that and remind me that he's protected more state land than my father has. That's just because you were in office for so damn long, man. I mean, at least one good thing came out of that. It sounded mean. It's not. I love the man, and his work in support of the Knowles Nelson Stewardship Fund, a testament to bipartisan commitment to the environment here in Wisconsin. I am forever grateful. Governor Evers, I'd like to thank you for making it legal to say the words climate change again in the state of Wisconsin. Yeah. So my father and Tony shared many, many attributes. Two of the most kind, gentlest people in the world, honorable public servants, great environmental champions, a very strong commitment to a very long happy hour, which they could conduct with great cheer and endurance that would wear out the rest. But they also had a unique ability to reach across the aisle, to speak to people from different walks of life, to talk about complex issues and bring people together, to know when to compromise on an issue without compromising on your principles. His environmental legacy is, I wanted to say it was second to none, but I'm afraid, Tony, I'm gonna have to say second to one, right? Second to one. I am my father's daughter, after all. Tony's work working with Democrat and Republican governors around the Great Lakes, 2 provinces in Canada, that work laid the groundwork for the Great Lakes Compact that we have today, and established a framework in which Democrats and Republicans work together to protect a unique, special resource. Groundwater Protection Bill, Mary Lou Muntz started the work on that with Tony's encouragement. Jeff Neubauer is here tonight, whom I worked for after working in Tony's constituent relations shop after he was elected. That was model legislation around the world, around the country. His work on acid rain, again, Wisconsin, a national leader and a national model for other states. For all of these things, we are deeply, deeply grateful for all you've done for the environment. Tony, I love you very, very much. And this room is full of love for you. I want to ask Peter McAvoy, who's going to show some leadership skills by standing up. I want to ask all the Tony Earl staffers to stand up and just join me very briefly. Where's Peter? There he is. It goes like this. Tony! 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 Good job. I'm so grateful. And I thank all of you for being here tonight. Thank you.
This was a time coming, wasn't it? But it's a wonderful, wonderful time. It's a time when I get to introduce the Democratic governor of Wisconsin, the great Tony Evers. Thank you. Thank you, thank you.
So it was great tonight, and having the opportunity to sit right next to Tony Earl when they kept saying these nice things about him and looking right at me also. Thank you, Tony. Thanks for sharing that. And also, for those of you who know me well, you know I have this huge ego. And you also may recognize that when the ambassador introduced dignitaries, he didn't mention me. Did you remember that? Anyway, the other thing that I've noticed before I get into my remarks, and they will be serious, but I noticed how much fun these former governors have. And do I have to wait like 3 or 7 or 10 years to have that much fun? Do the math. 1, 2, 3 terms. So it's an honor to be here tonight and have so many Wisconsin icons here celebrating the man of the hour, Tony Earl. And there's many things I admire about Governor Earl, besides his great first name and his initials, T.E. And Tony, I'd say weekly, somebody will catch me on the street and say, Governor Earl, and I just let it go. I say, yes. And then when they come up and say, why in the hell did you do that? I say, I'm not Tony Evers, I'm Governor Earl. So thanks for covering both sides there. Anyway, so many great things to tell about Tony Earl. Your long career dedicated to conservation of our environment and the preservation of Wisconsin's vast and natural resources. Another example, your unwavering commitment to our public education system that I had the opportunity to work with. And ensuring every kid has an opportunity to succeed. From working to champion democracy in our state, including the fight for fair maps and campaign finance reform. And as mentioned before, your unbelievable advocacy for equal opportunity and bringing diverse voices and experiences to the table. These are all things I'm striving to do also every day as governor. I believe all of us should strive to do this in our respective lives, because that's how we build a Wisconsin that works for everyone. And Tony Earl did that. And I believe Assemblyman, Secretary, Governor Earl set a great precedent for what we can all strive for as a state. And it could not be more fitting that for a man who has spent so much of his life and career advocating for clean air, clean water, and the preservation of our beautiful natural resources, that we name a state forest after him. It will serve as a reminder for all of us and to make sure that future leaders of our state continue to follow Governor Earl's legacy. That is a basic thing, and let's think about that. To leave our state in a better place that we found it. It's pretty simple. All the governors up here are doing that. And that goes beyond our natural environment, and it's talking about leaving our government and the agencies and the people who work there better than we found it. Always striving for more transparency, more justice, and defending democracy. So it's again an honor to be here tonight and to celebrate such an outstanding and accomplished great leader. And to unveil this behind me, I want to call up my Department of Natural Resources Secretary, Preston Cole, to discuss the designation of the Governor Earl Peshtigo State Forest. Preston?
Thank you, boss. I appreciate it. And as incoming Secretary Designee, I can't tell you how humbled I am to be in this room and be with the type of individuals who have a foundation and a legacy of protecting the air and the lands of the state of Wisconsin. Tony Evers was the DNR Secretary from 1975. I'm sorry. My bad. Tony Earl was the DNR Secretary from 1975 to 1980. Well, he's going to get me. He won't let me live that one down. He was known as extremely personable to the individuals in the Department of Natural Resources. And it was at a specific time in the agency where he was very personable and people came to him quite often to solve problems and seek his counsel. He was a staunch defender of the environment and boosted the morale of many DNR employees. And as I mentioned, some of his leave behinds, imagine the world without what he left us. So during Tony's tenure, important permitting and environmental protection programs were developed, such as Wisconsin's wastewater permitting program, Wisconsin's groundwater protection program, Wisconsin's non-port source pollution program, Wisconsin's Shoreline Protection Program, Wisconsin's Hazardous Substance Spill Law, and Wisconsin's Forest Management Program, and for the first time that integrated wildlife management and forest management into one place. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what he has left us, this legacy of clean air, clean water. He'll go down in history in the state of Wisconsin for that leave behind. Thank you. In September, the Natural Resources Board renamed the Peshtigo River State Forest the Governor Earl Peshtigo River State Forest. Located in Marinette and Oconto counties, it features over 25 miles of river, 3,200 acres of ponds and streams, 9,200 acres of forest land. The borders on some of the most beautiful and exciting sections of the Peshtigo River, known for its excellent fly fishing, and the long, continuous whitewater rapids. Many people at the DNR contributed to this effort to rename this important property, and it is certainly a distinct privilege and honor for each of us to do so. Today, on behalf of every daughter and son in the state of Wisconsin, we would like to unveil our gift on behalf of Tony Earl. Please stand.
Great job, Richard. Thank you. That worked out very well.
Hey, Tony, this is your old pal Fritz from the adjoining state of Minnesota. I know they're having this big event to honor you. I want to join with all your friends. You have been a wonderful public servant, and for a long time, you've been my friend, and I'm honored to be your friend.
Tony, you are a remarkable leader. Thank you.
Tony, thanks for caring about so many of us when we were kids. Maybe we're doing what we're doing today because you did what you did back then, and I appreciate it. Thanks, Tony.
Thank you, Tony, for all you've done for Wisconsin, for the chances you've given so many people, including me. We will all be forever indebted to you.
I got nothing but love for you, man. Thank you.
I want to thank you for the opportunity you gave me, and know that I will always love you.
To continue my introduction of important people, I'd like to one small thing I overlooked. All right, this is what's going to happen. Our governors and dignitaries and family are going to go out this door, and they will pick up a souvenir beer glass, make their way to the terrace where we were before we came in this room, and then everyone will follow. Everyone gets a glass, and we will reconvene in the back, and we will have a toast to Tony Earl. Thank you all for coming. Okay, now here's the first instruction. I want you to hold up your glasses with the toast to Tony Earl facing me. Okay? And then someone, presumably behind me, is taking a picture.
He's getting ready. He's almost ready.
All right.
Give her a minute.
The second instruction is that the person who dearly wanted to be here tonight, David Obey, could not be here tonight. So on behalf of David Obey, here's to you, Tony.
Love you, Tony.
All right, drink up. This is the end, but don't leave.
Okay, we're going to recast this, get a little tighter, and we're going to toast to Tony. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Now drink it. Okay, now, there we go, one more time. This is the official right here. She's the official.
All right, everybody's tired of listening to people talking into microphones, but I really want my dad, Tony, to say a couple words to everyone. Yes. We are very grateful for everyone attending this and participating in our lives as the family Earl.
Thank you very Okay, thank you very much. It is a special honor to be with so many fine people from the great state of Wisconsin. I've seen people tonight I haven't seen for a long time. I've seen a lot of well-worn bow ties. I love that, that's grand. And I'm particularly pleased that Tommy Thompson, Jim Doyle, Marty Schreiber, gosh. Scott McCallum, and of course the incumbent, the current incumbent, Tony Evers. I like those initials, I like that first name. This is terrific. I'm so proud to have had an opportunity to serve in public life in this state, and the folks who are here tonight make me understand once again why I am so proud. Thank you all very, very much. I'm forever in your debt, and I'll not forget this evening. Thank you so much.